Hey, this is Brady with Pickleball Effects. Today I'm going to review the new Double Black Diamond Infinity by 6-0. 6-0 came onto the scene late 2022 and just exploded in popularity in 2023, riding behind their flagship paddle, the Double Black Diamond Control, and this is an iteration of that paddle. So it shares a lot of the same characteristics as the original Double Black Diamond. It has that hybrid shape that's 16.3 inches long, so it's not quite elongated, it's not quite a standard shape, so it gives you a little extra reach, but it has a wider top, which makes it a little more forgiving. I'm a big fan of this shape, and I think it's a big part of the reason why 6-0 became so popular this year. And then it also has the same thermoform design, so it has the carbon seam around the perimeter, it also has the foam edge injection, and then it has a 5.5 inch long handle and a raw carbon fiber face, so they're using a little different grit compared to the original Double Black Diamond. This one is 16 millimeters thick. I imagine they'll come out with other models in the future, but they're initially launching with just the 16 millimeter model. The main difference being that this paddle is now edgeless. So instead of having an edge guard, it has this paint going around the perimeter. It has really sharp lines. It looks nice. Got to give them credit for making a really good looking paddle. Last thing I'll call out here is that USAP has guidelines that the length and width of a paddle cannot exceed so many inches, and that includes the edge guard. So when you take the edge guard off, it actually gives you a little more real estate to work with because it doesn't add to the width and the height of the paddle. So the actual playable surface area of this paddle is just a little bit wider and a little bit longer compared to the original, which I thought was cool. But with this paddle being edgeless, the spec sheet looks very different than the original. So let's look at the specs of this and compare it to the original Double Black Diamond. So starting with the static weight, they both have an average weight of 8.1 ounces. But then we start to see a divergence in numbers when we look at the swing weight. So the swing weight of the Infinity model is 110, while the swing weight of the original was 115. This swing weight of 110 is ridiculously low for a 16 millimeter paddle that is a little bit longer. Most hybrid shapes have a swing weight of around 115. So with this being 5 points lower is pretty significant. If you played with the original Double Black Diamond, this is going to be noticeably lighter and more maneuverable compared to the original, just based off swing weight. Now let's look at the twist weight numbers. So the twist weight number for the Infinity is 5.9, while the original had a measurement of 6.72. This is a much lower twist weight number, so I would expect this to be a little less stable, not quite as forgiving out of the box compared to the original, and that's something I'll be paying attention to when I do the play test. But I will say that this is actually a pretty respectable twist weight number considering how low the swing weight is. And when you compare this twist weight to other edgeless paddles on the market, it's actually on the higher end. So 5.9 does fall below average when you compare to other paddles on the market, but because the swing weight is so low, it should be pretty easy to customize by adding lead tape, which is something I'll experiment with in the playtest. And then the paddle's retailing for $220, but if you use my code 10effect, you can get 10% off. If you are interested in purchasing the paddle, then I have links to the paddle in my description. So here's the Double Black Diamond Infinity. Let's go put this on the court and see how it plays.
Many players prefer 16 millimeter paddles due to the added control they provide. However, one of the drawbacks of thicker core paddles is that they are clunkier in nature and lack speed compared to thinner core models. The Infinity Double Black Diamond changes that. It plays with the speed and maneuverability of a 14 millimeter paddle, but with the control of a 16. I can't think of a faster hybrid or elongated 16 millimeter paddle that I've played. When attacking, the obvious improvement with the increased maneuverability was in hand battles. No question, I was getting my paddle in a better position more often on counters and in hand battles. Plus, with the paddle still being thermoformed, I felt like I was getting the pop I needed in those situations. Another area I noticed an improvement was in wristy shots. So things like backhand rolls and flicks. These shots are typically more difficult to execute because they require stronger wrist strength to get the paddle action you need to generate a significant amount of spin and or power. You could get the spin and power off of your backhand better with this paddle over other 16 millimeter paddles. The paddle does come with a small reduction in power compared to the original DVD 16 millimeter, though this seems to be due more to the lower swing weight rather than to the design of the paddle. Despite this, it's still thermoformed and maintains some good pop and power, albeit not as much as others. Then when it came to spin, my spin test averaged at 2080 RPMs. This is a very high measurement for me. The spin is there. The face actually kind of feels smooth to the touch compared to many other raw carbon paddles, so I was surprised by the big spin production. Particularly on serves, drives, and drops, the paddle really has some bite there. Now let's talk about control. The Infinity is just a touch softer feeling at impact compared to the original DVD, and when you combine that with its subtly subdued power, it was easier to control than the original. If you have played any thermoform paddle and can handle those, then you'll be able to control this one just as well, if not even a little bit better. It's not an overly soft feel, it still has that stiffer, crisp feel that's common with thermoform paddles, though it's just not quite as harsh of a feel as the original DBD. I didn't notice any issues with my soft game when it came to dinks, resets, and drops, though I was prone to occasionally pop it up more than I would with a pure control paddle. The downside of this paddle on the control side when you put it up against the original DBD16 is the smaller sweet spot in comparison. Like the twist weight number suggested, the Infinity does have a tighter sweet spot that is more comparable to the original DBD 14mm. That is to say, I think the sweet spot is playable out of the box, though it isn't ideal and it benefits with some lead tape. And once I added some lead tape to it, it really trued up the paddle and made it more player friendly, though it didn't quite reach the level of forgiveness as the original. At least that was the case with the lead tape setup that I went with. So here's the lead tape setup I used. My goal with this setup was to improve the stability of the paddle without taking away what inherently makes the paddle good with its easy maneuverability, and I think I accomplished that. I added 2 inches of 1 gram per inch tape on each side like this. I typically put weight just above the bottom corners, but I ended up shifting it up a little higher so the sweet spot was closer to the tip of the paddle and to add a little more power. With the lead tape, my overgrip, and the edge guard tape, the weight increased from 8.1 to 8.46 ounces. The swing weight increased from 110 to 114, and the twist weight got a nice jump from 5.9 to 6.43. This weighted tape I'm using is actually tungsten tape. This is a product I designed and is in production right now. It's really cool stuff and I can't wait to bring it to market. The edge guard tape I'm using is really nice too. It fits the paddle perfectly and is brandless, so it looks sharp. I'll put a link to it in my description. You're going to want to use some edge guard tape for this paddle. It gets scratched up easily. So here's my recommendation. I know people will ask me if the Infinity is better than the original DBD16. I don't think one is better than the other. I think they are different and will suit different needs and play styles. The original DBD 16mm paddle has an oversized sweet spot, making it more suitable for players of all levels and will make you more consistent and reliable, but it doesn't have the amazing speed and maneuverability of the Infinity. I think the Infinity is for players who like to play creatively because it opens up the door to a variety of shots and enables you to be crafty. But if you like to play it straight and rely on consistent and proven play, then the original DBD16 would probably suit you better. The original DBD 16mm paddle isn't going anywhere and will remain relevant for a long while, but the Infinity does add a new flavor to 6Zero's paddle offering. So that's all I have for you. Thanks for watching and I hope it helps. If you decide to pick one up, please use my discount code 10effect at checkout for a discount and to help support my channel. Thanks for watching.